Welcome to Formula Wombat, the channel by F1 fans, for F1 fans, from F1 fans that don't know that much about F1, but we invite you on the journey to learn with us.
Yeah, we basically like things that go fast. And vroom.
Now, today we are sipping some homemade ginger ale that is easy for anybody to make at home. There's a link to how to brew that yourself if you want to, right up there or in the description down below. Now, jumping into today's podcast, we've got a few things to cover off. We're going to cover the review of the Suzuka Japan last week, talk about all the highlights, the key factors, all the big events that went on. Then we're going to touch on Bahrain, the key factors that you need to look out for Bahrain when making your predictions. What are our predictions and what is our fantasy lineup going to be to maximize revenue and points heading into this weekend's GP?
Yes, exciting stuff. Like, going straight into Japan, I'm glad I was watching that at work, It was a snooze fest.
He does work at Snooze. Unsponsored plug. Yeah. But yeah, it was it was a fairly uneventful race. There wasn't a whole lot that went down.
I kind of wish it rained. Like, it was wet that day.
Well, it so often does. It so often does rain at some point over the weekend in Japan. I think it's wet more often than it's been dry. But this year there was only 15 total on-track overtakes versus last year, 48.
Yeah, that's an insane difference.
More than 3 times lower than last year. That is why it was such a boring race.
The main one was obviously Hamilton overtaking Hadjar, because that's the only one that impacted.
Yeah,
at the end
pretty much.
I think Doohan must have got a few because he.
But the fact that a Ferrari, is doing an achievement by overtaking a cash app is just.
Yeah, it's not really much of an achievement.
No, it's not. It's not.
Should be expected.
The only exciting moment was Lando's lawnmower incident.
I mean, that's meme of
Racing
the week.
incident.
That's got to be meme of the week for sure.
Absolutely. That's coming up on screen now, I'm sure. But
it just that grass and it needed to be mowed.
It just needed to be mowed. The upkeep team at Suzuka weren't tidying the track enough, so Lando saw what needed to be done and he stepped in.
And that was the other entertaining thing, was Albon getting frustrated. He got a little bit mad on the race.
He did.
That was the only other entertaining thing that race.
Speaking of, for the swear jar, we got a few more coins going into the FIA swear jar.
He mentioned it in the post-race interview as well. All the drivers said it was quite a boring race. So
it was a very lonely race for a lot of drivers. Ollie basically was on his own
but that's
the whole
thing.
time.
It's a testament of Max. Like, that qualifying lap, qualifier was definitely way more entertaining than the race itself. But that was added.
Well, I agree. On that point, testament to Max, though, is the fact that he was keeping up with the McLaren, well, staying ahead of the McLarens, but, in effect, keeping up with them.
Yeah.
And the gap between the McLarens and Max and then Ferrari being Charles was enormous.
It's insane.
He should not be, he should not be there in that car either. He is in arguably the 3rd or 4th best car right now. He should not have been there.
Yeah.
It's remarkable that he managed to hold it.
I didn't think he'd win a race this early. I felt like he'd win a race in the season. I didn't think it'd be literally Japan.
Yeah,
after he got pole,
we did forget though that he is just a Japan expert. He is remarkably
he's just a
good
freak
there.
in nature in general.
He is. Well, that marks 4 years in a row of him winning in Japan.
Yeah.
It was a stellar weekend from him all round.
Yeah.
And then Kimi did set some new records.
Yeah,
and that was the other massively noteworthy item in an otherwise very boring race. Kimi became the youngest driver ever to lead an F1 GP, which is enormous.
Pretty good. Pretty good for him.
Yep.
And not only obviously it's because he didn't pit earlier, but
the strategy worked.
The strategy was
but he made the tyres last.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It very well
the
could have
tyres in
backfired.
that race did not make any sense. There was people on the mediums for 30 plus laps.
It was a bizarre race. It was a bizarre race. I mean, that's the thing, because it's a race with. It's a massively high-speed race with high-speed corners. You don't have as high a degradation because you don't have that heavy braking zones that Bahrain is going to have, but we'll touch on that more in a bit. Because the last thing that's worth noting about Kimi is that besides Lewis Hamilton, he is now the only other person ever in his rookie season to score points in his first 3 races, which is enormous.
Toto would be happy.
Very happy.
He hasn't dropped below 6th place. So
He's made a brilliant
insane
judgment call in Kimi. It has been a stroke of absolute genius.
I don't know. It's hard to predict if anyone thought he would be that good or consistent as well for the start of the season.
I don't think anyone predicted him to be that consistent.
I
think everyone thought he'd have flashes of brilliance.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
anybody thought how consistent he has become was what was awaiting us.
Well, it looked like he was struggling during qualifier.
He was strolling in us.
No, not strolling yet. Not quite yet.
Not quite yet.
Well, Stroll did come last. That was a bit of a stroll.
That was disappointing. I had him in my fantasy team. Touch on that later.
No, but I think another talking point is Yuki. Like, big talking point that weekend. Yuki in the Red Bull.
Yeah.
Couldn't pull it together in Q2.
Well, in fairness though,
he was looking so promising. He was promising.
Was looking very promising, but in fairness, first ever race in the Red Bull.
Yeah.
You have to keep that in mind. He has not driven a race in that car ever before, and he came in, what was it, 12th in the end?
Yeah.
Which I would call an achievement. I'd call that an
better than
absolute
Lawson,
success.
so obviously it's a bit better.
You gotta throw like the nerd Hulk, like absolute success on screen.
Did better than Lawson, but now Hadjar.
Yeah, well that's the thing. Well, that's the next big news. Hadjar's
like,
going to replace Yuki now. So we had Hadjar beating Yuki and Yuki beating Liam.
Yeah.
Look, Red Bull's a little bit of a mess, but it's quite impressive just how quick and consistent Isaac has been since Melbourne.
Yeah.
Melbourne, look, write that one off. Weird race, bizarre race, tragic race.
The RBs look very good. Like, they look better than the Aston Martins.
They do.
And they're out-qualifying Ferraris. So,
Yeah. I mean, I think realistically,
what is this weird world?
This is a three-way battle between Williams, Haas, and RB Cash App.
Yeah. Like, Williams has been very consistent. Albon's been very consistent. Like, I still think they have the edge over both the teams, but Sainz needs to start getting more points as well. He's not really pulling his weight at the moment. New car as well, fair. But
I think
first season F1, so
well. I guess on that, we should talk about Bahrain, because I do have a prediction regarding Carlos. So remind me to touch on that. You know what? I'm going to make a note for myself to touch on that one. But something that's worth noting with Bahrain before we dive into predictions is just a few stats and key factors around the track. It is a very high-speed street circuit, which is the first important point to point out. It is a street circuit, which makes it inevitably more dangerous because there's less room for error, but it is, I think, the highest speed street circuit on the 2025 calendar, if I'm not mistaken.
it will definitely be more entertaining.
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
It absolutely
Should
will
be.
be. And it's built that way because it is a very high traction track and has very high tire degradation because there is some very heavy braking zones. So you've got really high speed corners, but then you've got some really heavy braking zones. But that's necessary not only for degrading the tires and forcing more pit stops, but also creating those overtaking opportunities, which will be at turns 1, 4, and 11 traditionally. It also does have 36 on-track overtakes last year. However, the average in Bahrain is actually 52. So we have seen a decline in the overtakes, but that's also largely because the DRS zone was shortened on one of those main overtaking stretches.
The midfield battle will be so much more interesting compared to Suzuka.
It will be. And remember, this is also typically a 2 pit stop race.
Yes.
So the strategy suddenly matters much more.
Like, strategy was like, it was barely any strategy last race in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the strategy just didn't work. I don't know what people...
Well, McLaren didn't have a strategy.
The strategy was mow the grass.
The strategy was mow the grass and pit when Max pits, apparently.
Dude, he got close. He did get close. The Red Bull nearly screwed up the pit stop.
It absolutely astounds me, though, that Lando didn't just tailgate Max and overtake him with a slipstream.
Yes.
Like if he just sat behind him and had 3 iotas of more patience, he would have overtaken him in first corner anyway. But
you never know.
Such
Hindsight.
Yeah. Hindsight's 2020. All right, now predictions for Bahrain.
Who's first? Who went first? Well, I was the closest for last race.
Debatable.
Definitely, because I had Max on podium.
Okay, what was your prediction for last race for the audience?
I had Oscar first, Max second, Lando third.
Whereas I had Lando first, Oscar second, George third. So if you remove George from the equation, or remove Max from the equation...
I'm still closer. I got all the podiums right.
Yeah, but you had them totally mucked up in order. Yeah, so if you remove Max, my podiums were so much closer. I was one off with both.
My predictions, though, hasn't changed. Slightly.
Okay, so what's your prediction for this week?
I've got Oscar still first, Lando second, and Max third.
So Oscar first, Lando second, Max third.
I mean, Max just in a different category.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because you know what I have?
You have this.
I have Lando first, Oscar second, Max third.
I can't. You're not repping the Aussie, mate.
I can't because, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Historically, Lando does outperform Oscar, particularly in street races.
I believe Oscar's just another machine this year. He is qualifying so much better. Like he screwed up his first sector in his last lap. Obviously, probably pushing the McLaren a bit too hard, but I think he's just got everything right this year. Like other than Australia, which shit went down, but I feel like he's just in a different kind of groove at this time.
I don't know. I want to believe that, but Bahrain is an especially tricky race. You have Bahrain. It's one of those tracks where you have specialists for the track.
He does have the experience now to back it up. Like
true. Although all that being said, I just think Lando performs better in this style of street race. The same way that Charles Leclerc, street specialist, also a Bahrain specialist. I think the same way that Sergio was a Bahrain specialist.
That's the thing. Oscar had pace in Suzuka. He had more pace than Lando.
Very different track though. Suzuka is a high speed, high speed corner track.
I think it's going to be neck and neck. Like they're going to be battling for first. I feel like Oscar will finally get the edge over him.
See, here's where I was umming and ahhing though.
Yeah.
I was trying to decide if I put Max in second or third, splitting the McLarens, because Max is just so much more picture perfect. But my only issue with placing him higher is that the Red Bull struggles on low speed corner tracks.
And I also think there's more overtaking opportunities for the McLarens this race. So I definitely think it will happen.
Yeah.
Especially if they work better. If the only possibility is if Max qualified poles, basically.
The only way that I see Oscar getting past Lando is through protecting his tyres. I do think that Oscar does tend to protect his tyres a little better than Lando does. And on such a high degradation track, that could create the opportunity for him to out pit stop Lando.
It will make the World Championship very interesting because it's a three-way battle at the moment.
And there's only 1 point separating Lando and Max.
And that's tight.
Yes.
That's tight.
Yes, it is. That's
What's constructor prediction?
Now,
I'm pretty sure we probably have very similar.
I doubt it because I've gone McLaren in first, Ferrari in second, Mercedes in third.
Wow, you're not backing your boy Yuki, eh? You don't think he'll score points? You don't think he'll score points?
I don't think he'll score points in this race unless he has a fantastic qualifying. I can't see him cutting through the field enough to score points.
I feel like he should have made Q3 last race. He just didn't pull the lap together.
I think you'd say that about anything. That's racing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I feel like he's probably going to be a bit more comfortable now.
A bit, but this is a far more dangerous circuit.
We'll see.
Where mistakes in Bahrain don't equate the same as mistakes in Suzuka.
Yeah. I have, my predictions, McLaren, Red Bull, and then Merc. So
McLaren, Red Bull, Merc. You think the Red Bulls as a team are going to outperform
I think Yuki will score points and Max will come third, so he'll bump them up a bit more. So.
Interesting. That's a bold call.
I can't. How do you have Ferrari second?
Yeah, well, historically speaking, Ferrari is far better suited to Bahrain. So Bahrain is a really high speed street track with very high speed and very low speed corners. The Ferrari is almost built for this type of track. If you go back through the last 5 years, Ferrari has been brilliant in Bahrain.
Maybe they'll finally get a podium this year. So.
Yeah, well, I also see them reducing their downforce for this track. They don't need such intense downforce, and when you reduce the downforce on a Ferrari, it is a bullet in a straight line, and there's a huge main straight in Bahrain.
I'm surprised you don't have Leclerc or Hamilton as a podium winner then.
Well,
over Max.
I really want to, but I just don't think they're quite ready to pull together. I think Leclerc will come in fourth.
Yeah,
I have a suspicion it's going to be a fourth, fifth for Ferrari.
Wow, I think George has got to be in fourth or fifth.
But that's why I think Ferrari's going to be the second best team, because you're going to have the two McLarens on the podium. You'll have Max somewhere in the mix.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have Ferrari following the gap.
Okay, that's not
potentially with George splitting the Ferraris. I don't think Lewis is quite up to Leclerc's pace yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't see the Ferraris doing that well quite yet. Like beating out the Mercs quite yet.
Remains to be seen. But now it's time to talk about F1 fantasy and what our lineup is going to be to get maximum points and money gains. So, start us off, mate. What is your lineup for this weekend? Because I got 2 options for mine, so I'll go last.
So, yeah, mine hasn't changed much compared to last week. So, I previously had Stake as a team and Stroll as a driver. Completely got rid of them. Stroll, I've swapped with Ocon, and I've gone with Aston Martin as a team now.
So what's your full lineup?
My full lineup is Oscar Piastri with the 2 times, Kimi Antonelli, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Ollie Behrman. Purely mainly for value, and also I think just the Haas are going to be just decent drivers.
And Haas is your team? Haas?
No, so
Aston's your team.
Mercedes and Aston Martin. So I'm hoping...
Why Aston if you've taken Stroll out?
Because I think Alonso will get overtakes. I still think Stroll will get some overtakes.
But then why not have Alonso? But then why not have Alonso in your lineup then?
Because he's still got the DNF from China, so he's going to lose value still. So I'll take him.
So you're taking the team points?
I'll probably take him the following week.
I see. So you're going for the team points, but you don't want the negatives associated with him as a driver. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Because keep in mind this year, the way that the valuations are calculated are complicated, but one of the big things to remember is it's the 3 previous results versus the average of the season. So, for example, right now we've had a lot of drivers that had a terrible Melbourne race, which means if you've retained
everyone
them,
over.
Exactly.
Everyone would have lost value.
Very few people actually did well off that.
Yeah. You'd had to be extremely lucky. Like, you would have had to have Stroll in your lineup for that to be like the best possible option that race.
Yeah. So what I did last week to gain some revenue, knowing that we're going to have a lot of drivers that were coming out of poor performances or increasing performances, I had Stroll just purely for revenue gain. I was not concerned about getting points from him last week. I also had Ocon for the revenue, and then Behrman was providing some good revenue gains as well. But now heading into this week, I absolutely want to get rid of Stroll because he is only heading for a decline or holding his revenue. I don't think he can gain anymore. I think he's going to max himself out. Yeah.
And if he DNFs, which he's probably the most likely person on the track, like we all know why. But
I now have 2 options for my lineup, and my focus for this weekend is not so much for the points, but more for the revenue gains. I will be more concerned with points a little later in the season. Right now, I want to make driver swaps that are going to gain me a lot of money so that I can have a stronger team in the second half of the season. So I'm running with first option being retaining Lando with the 2 times, keeping Isaac because now he should be moving away from the Melbourne slump and actually gaining a lot of revenue. Jack Doohan, because again, terrible Melbourne, lost a lot of points. Now he's had some decent performance in the last 2 races, and I think he'll have a half-decent performance again here in Bahrain. At the very least, I think he's going to get some overtakes. Then I'm considering having Albon in there, again, for revenue and consistency. And lastly, Ollie, again, revenue and consistency. And then McLaren and Racing Bulls as my teams. I'm umming and ahhing between Haas and Racing Bulls. It's a tough choice between the 2.
I feel like the Racing Bulls at the moment slightly edge Haas out.
I think so. I think the only reason Haas is outdoing them at the moment is because Racing Bulls just gave away China to them.
Well, that and the DNF won't count though for Hadger's first race.
Yes.
Racing Bulls should go up in value generally.
I would anticipate it, and I just think that they're at the moment hauling more points than average, ignoring the China double pit stop mistake. My second lineup option is Oscar with the 2 times, Isaac Hadger again, Jack Doohan again, Kimi Antonelli, Ollie Behrman, McLaren, and Racing Bulls.
It's just a better version of what I have.
It is a better version of what you have. Yeah, I just have slightly more revenue than Odin right now.
Your problem is you'd lose negative 10 points.
I would lose 10 points because I'll have to make 1 additional swap. I'll be making 3 stops instead of 2 from last week. Now, here's what it all hinges on for me, because I think there is a decent chance that the Oscar and Kimi combo will haul more points than the Lando Albon combo. There's also the possibility that the Oscar Kimi combo could yield more revenue gains. But the thing that's going to decide it for me is testing. It's all going to come down to how Mercedes is performing in testing, because this is traditionally not a Mercedes forward track.
Yeah.
So I don't know how strong Kimi's actually going to be here.
Yeah, that's why I think the Haas generally should be faster as well. You think maybe the Haas's might have the edge over RB this race?
I
You
do,
don't know.
I do.
You don't. It's hard to tell.
I am
until
convinced
practice,
that Haas will have the edge down the straights. I think Haas is going to be the better performer, but I can't make that fourth swap and lose even more points.
That's the question that we'll find out on practice, race day, and quali day.
Absolutely. So my mind is going to be, if Kimi can put in practice averaging 8th or higher, I'll be doing the Kimi Oscar swap. If Kimi can't be putting himself into the top 8, I'll be running with the Lando Albon combo.
Yeah, be interesting. I think we'll see Oscar up in the practice again. Lando for sure.
I agree. Well, as an Aussie, I would really love to take the Oscar Kimi combo because I'm sick of rooting for Lando. I'm watching these races absolutely torn down the middle because I got Lando as my driver in my fantasy, but I really want Oscar to take him.
Yeah.
But I think that is all from us for this week of Formula Wombat.
Exciting.
Catch us soon. We're going to be unleashing a whole bunch of new videos, diving into everything about Formula One and who these drivers are. But until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
And we'll catch you later.